Up last night, watched the whole game? No. How many are staying up tonight to watch the whole game?
I know.
All right. So you guys know why we're here today. You guys know who I am. I want to introduce you. This is my good friend. This is also the city attorney. And this is Darren Schulman. So he has he's got a lot of legal interest in this whole topic that we're going to be discussing today. He is the one that we go to for the police department as well as the city government stuff with all the legal questions. He's the conduit for that, so good resource on that. He's going to go through some things that we've identified as kind of main points in the whole cops and cameras thing. Then we're going to get questions in there, but we want you guys to throw the hands up and ask stuff throughout the time, okay? To start it off, as you sit right now, with the information you have right now, how many want cops and cameras? Show of hands.
There's no right or wrong answer.
No right or wrong answer. It's just a straw poll. Got the election. The election's coming up, so we're getting in there. All right, how many do not? Okay, good.
Jake, I'm going to put you in record. You remember how many, because I forgot.
Okay, I'm going two to 1/3 now, and undecided. Meaning I have no idea, I have not made a decision, make it for me today. Okay, so 4 to 5. Okay, good deal. All right.
So what we're going to do is we're going to go through some of the questions and issues with these body cameras, and basically it's interactive, so I'm going to ask you questions, and there's, again, no right or wrong answers, but we're just kind of looking to see what you think, and then at the end, we're going to kind of reconvene and take another vote, so hopefully you keep an open mind. So the first question I have is, why do you think people want cameras on police officers? Why do you think body cameras are popular? Yes.
Because it could watch, like, let's just say that Officer Harden was killed, let's just say that.
Let's not say that.
Oh, you took a depressing curve.
Yeah.
And he got bike cameras, so we know who killed him. And let's just say it was a robber.
So it could help with an investigation to watch what happened on the camera.
So hey, you're saying evidence.
Yeah.
What do you got? So there's two kinds of evidence. So her evidence was helping us figure out what happened, and your evidence, I assume, is what happened, what he observed, if it went to trial or something like that. Also good. I've got one more on the top of my head. Yes.
To help prevent false reporting, stuff like that.
To help prevent bad behavior, false reports. So that's good. You guys are a very smart class, because I picked 2, and you actually had 3 that are kind of related. So yes, there is a theory out there that says to show that people act better when they know they're being filmed. You don't do something wrong when you know people are watching. So how many of you, have y'all camera phones with video, how many of you would do something really bad on video when you knew your friend or your teacher or something was videoing you? You would? You might not
Loud and proud,
you might
man,
not
loud and
want
proud,
video
sorry.
because it might get sent to your parents or your teacher or something.
I'm not raising my hand to that, but I am wondering if we could turn on the F1 so the microphone.
That's cool.
Forward.
Where's the F1?
It should
Oh, I'm
Sorry, what's F2?
There we go. Awesome.
It's working.
Oh, so we have to start all over again. So we're going to start with the vote. No, okay, well, okay. Sorry,
Start from your good.
sorry about that.
Thanks.
How many people know like F1? Okay, so did you have a question or was I? Okay. So yeah, people tend to think that you're going to act better when you're on video because you don't want people seeing you act badly. The other thing, as we talked about, is evidence. So if you're going to trial, you can listen to Officer Hartman say, I saw this happen, I saw that happen, and this happened. Or you might not believe him, or you can watch the video and see what happened yourself. So those are the reasons why people want body cameras.
Hey, real quick, do you think, let's just get, we're sitting in here, we're doing this right now, would you guys act differently if I had a camera on right now? No. No? Yes? I see some heads going, yeah. What if your teachers had a camera on all day? Would you act differently? Better behaved? Okay, just curious.
So I think the vast majority of you voted to have, at the first vote we did, voted to have cameras. So the next question I have to ask is, are the cameras always going to be on, like when Officer Hartman wakes up in the morning and reports to work, is he turning it on and it's on his whole shift? Or are we only going to turn it on when he gets a call or an incident, like there's a 911 call, Officer Hartman, we need you to report to this person's house, there's a burglary, is that when it turns on? So who thinks it should just be on all the time to capture everything that happens during that day? And who thinks we should only turn it on when there's a call or an incident or 911, something like that? Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to go through the issues of both of those approaches, because there's no right or wrong answer. So first we're going to look at what happens if it's on only when there's a call. So first, how does the officer know when it's the time to turn that recorder on? So he's got to make that decision. So what do you all think? When should he know to turn it on?
When he gets the call or when he arrives at the scene.
So when there's that call from the dispatch or when he gets to the scene, those are two good approaches. What do you think?
I think the dispatch should turn it on.
So when the dispatcher calls it, it should go on then.
Read.
Do you mean the dispatcher turns it on themselves? Like they can,
Automatically? Okay, that's a good one.
you know, that's a really interesting idea because I don't know if it's technologically possible, but it would solve the problem of him forgetting to turn it on or not being able to. So that is a very good idea that maybe we should call the camera makers and have that trigger to that.
Like
But
a Wi-Fi thing or something.
so, but here's the question I have following that. So if you're going to turn it on when he gets to the scene or when the dispatcher calls, or even when the dispatcher automatically does it, what about the times when Officer Hartman's just walking around and someone runs up to him and says, "Oh my gosh, you know, I'm getting robbed, help me," or he's walking around and he sees two of you in this class disagree over whether we should wear body cams and you get in a fight. So there's no call, it just happens. So what happens then? Well, he's either got to remember to turn it on or we're not going to have video and that could be bad. Did you have a thought on that? You got to make judgment calls, yes. And I guess the question I would have is, what happens the next one? What if he forgets to turn it on or he makes a bad judgment? So if you're a juror and there's a trial and Officer Hartman says, you know, I made the call, I didn't turn my camera on, I didn't think it was a big deal, or I forgot. What are you going to think when the defense attorney says, well, why is there no video? They're always supposed to have video in these cases. What do you think? I heard something, but I couldn't see where it came
Or
from.
mumbling.
Yes, what do you think you're going to think? Yeah, you're going to think, well, maybe he didn't do it because there's always supposed to be video, and there isn't video in this case, and maybe he's hiding something. Maybe it didn't happen the way he said it. So anytime you allow judgment or decisions, there is a chance that it's not going to happen and it could have a bad result. Yes?
When he calls it in from his walkie-talkie,
He might call it in if he has a chance. Sometimes he's got to act real fast.
if he does, then the dispatcher will phone the idea that the dispatcher
I'll be honest, there's times, I mean, not many. I mean, most of the time you know you're getting sent to something or, you know, something developing and you see it coming, but there are times that, you know, just something happens right now. You know, I mean, there's people that when they see that police cars are a magnet for people that have issues. So, you know, they come up there and you just inherit whatever problem just arrive. So there's things that happen very quickly, evolve very quickly, and you know sometimes you don't have the ability to radio that in until you get to a stopping point. So I mean, it happens.
So when you're charged with a crime, which hopefully none of you ever will be, we have to prove that you committed this crime based on the evidence. What we can't do is we can't say, you're more likely to have committed the crime because 2 years ago you also committed a different kind of crime, so you're a bad person, so you probably did this. That's not allowed. So the question I have is, what happens if on that video you get information that can't be, it's mixed in, but it's not allowed at trial, or maybe it can't be shown at all because it's confidential. So if Officer Hartman's interviewing you and says, hey, didn't I see you 2 years ago doing drugs? That can't be allowed at trial, but it's kind of mixed in with everything else. Or if Officer Hartman is talking to you about a medical condition that you have while he's investigating, that's protected by something called HIPAA, and that can't be out. So what do you think we do with that stuff that's mixed in the video that we can't release or can't hand over? What do we do if it's in the video? Yeah.
You edit it out.
So you would think you could edit it out, and some things you can edit out, like Social Security numbers, but I guess my follow-up question to that would be, we're going back to the jury or the defendant, if I give you a video and it's got gaps in it, and you're like, what do you think is going to happen if the police give you a video with gaps in it?
They're going to question why you removed it.
Exactly. So there's no easy answer here. So if you get a video and you're like, oh, I just took out the stuff you can't see, you're going to say, you're hiding the good stuff that I need. You're hiding the evidence that makes me look innocent. You're hiding the stuff that shows you did something wrong. And how can you prove that? So when we give evidence, we have to prove that it's authentic. So if it's a picture, how many of you play around with Photoshop? Like you could edit, or even Snapchat or all those filters on Instagram. The picture's got to be like it was. So I can't have an evidence with a picture of a defendant with the dog face on it, because it's got to be actually the way it was. So you can't edit videos to make it look more like he's guilty or something like that. So these are the issues that we have to worry about with evidence. But more importantly, who is going to do that editing? Let's assume we decided we're going to edit out that stuff. Who's going to do it? Any ideas?
Perhaps someone of a neutral party.
So it could be a neutral party. That kind of system doesn't exist right now. So the way it works right now is it's either the officer has to do it because it's his video, which does have questions about, well, what's the editing. It could be the prosecutor, but then, again, the same questions of, well, what is the editing out? The other question is, if he or I am editing that video, what else should we be doing during that time that we're sitting on there messing around with the video? He should be investigating other crimes, and I should be doing my law stuff. So maybe we hire a third person who's a video reviewer who comes in here and just edits all the videos and cuts them up and gets them ready and organizes them. But then again, we got to pay that person too. So we got to figure these questions out. All right, here's one that kind of makes me laugh, but it's real. What happens if Officer Hartman responds to a call, maybe it's at night, and people are sleeping and they're in their underwear? That's going to get caught up on video. If it's someone is having a heart attack and the police and the EMS respond to the scene and everyone's kind of waking up, you might be in your underwear, you might sleep naked, I don't know. But that's going to be on the video. Would you like that if you were filmed naked on Officer Hartman's body cam? It does. Yeah, it happens. How many times have you seen someone naked? You can't unsee it.
You can't, there's so much you can't unsee.
Yeah. So again, you cannot blur that. Well, you can't blur it out for this reason. Certain things, like Social Security numbers, we're not allowed to give out, and we can kind of, in medical records, we can kind of block that out. But there's no, if it's not exempted out specifically, we have to give it over, and just being naked isn't one of the exceptions. So unfortunately, we could not just blur that out. And again, they would say, well, what are you blurring out? Are you blurring out something that's really helpful to me? So that's the bad side about body cameras, is they catch people being naked and doing other things. So now here's the final question. The way it works right now without body cameras is Officer Hartman does an investigation, and as soon as he's done with it, he gets down to the computer, he types up his report while it's fresh in his memory, and what do you think he puts in his report?
What we saw.
Yeah, he puts out everything that's in kind of what he saw, everything that's relevant to the case while it's fresh in his memory. Do you think he should review that body camera if he has one before he writes his report, or should he wait until he writes his report and then watch the camera?
Can't we do it while he's writing it?
He could, but can anyone think of a reason why you might not want to watch that camera while you're writing your report? Watch that body cam? I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you. There might be naked people, but he's gonna, yeah, and what do you think? So yeah, if he's watching the camera, there could be another case that's going on, so it's an hour he might be using up not efficiently. What do you think?
He has everything in his head the way that it happened, so if he watches the video, he might see something else that he didn't notice before, and then that would kind of push out the other stuff that you remember, and you won't remember it.
That's the big one. So he's acting based on what he sees and how he perceives it. And so if he's asked on the stand, why did you do this? It's because I thought I saw that. Well, if he watches the video and he sees something different, it can shape his perception, and now he's writing his report differently. I didn't do it because I saw that. I did it because of what's on the video. So you're exactly right. That could change his report. So that's one big concern with it. I think I saw another hand up. I don't want to not give everyone a chance. But that's exactly right. So we've talked about the camera being only on for a call, so maybe the answer is just to keep it on all the time. So he turns it on in the morning, he does his 8 hours, and then he goes home. But what happens when he goes to the bathroom? That camera's on. What do you guys think? Nobody wants to hear that, right? Or see that? I don't think so. So what does he do when he's in the bathroom? Any ideas? So he could put his hand over the camera. Hopefully he can cover the sound, but I hope he has his other hand to wipe. What else could you do with issues like going to the bathroom? You can turn it off, right? So again, yeah, what do you?
You wouldn't be able to turn it off because then that would, like, if something bad is happening in the like, bad to the officer, and he turns it off, because it might be bad on him.
Right. So the problem with turning the camera off is that someone's going to say, well, why are these gaps there during your day? Why is it off for 20 minutes at 2 o'clock on Friday? And you're going to say, well, I was in the bathroom. And they're going to say, I don't think you were. Or maybe he forgets to turn it on when he's coming out of the bathroom and something happens and there's no evidence. So anytime you have something always on and there's gaps, people are going to say, I want to know what's happening in the gaps. It's human nature. If I tell you I can't tell you something, now you really want to know what I couldn't tell you. So that's just an issue. What about undercover work? So what if the officer is going undercover to do undercover drug buys, or he has a confidential informant who does the drug buys secretly helping the police? What do you think a problem would be of videotaping that? Is there one? What do you think? You were going to say something, yet you're kind of, okay, what do you think, sir?
Maybe it could be used against them or something, and they might be actually buying drugs for themselves.
Okay, so there's two pieces there that are very good. So first of all, there's video of this officer buying drugs, so someone could say, well, I just saw Officer Hartman buying drugs, he's using drugs because he's not in his uniform. The other thing could be, it could be used against that confidential informant because now they know, wait a minute, this guy's helping the police working to buy drugs, and they could do retribution against him. What do you think? Did you have your hand up too? You could get caught. So so there's a lot of issues with that confidential informant because we don't have to release that information to the public. Because if you told everyone the name of everyone who was secretly buying drugs on behalf of the police, then nobody would ever sell them drugs, and they could be hurt, could be caught. So here's a question: how long do you have to keep this video? So on your phones, do you take videos and pictures and stuff with your phone? Do you notice how much room that takes up on there? Have you ever had your phone get filled up and you have to clean it out? Well, videos take a lot of space. And if you think about every officer filming all day, that's a lot of video that's got to be stored somewhere. And how long are you going to keep that? And how is it going to be organized? Because it's just that one long clip of the day. How are you going to chop it up for each case? You're going to have a video person whose whole job it is to look at that. Officer Hartman, did you say in Cincinnati they had to hire like 4?
It was more than that. It was
12?
I want to say it was 12 full-time people that they hired to review, edit, and organize video.
So they'd hire 12 people just to watch and organize and edit these videos. So that's a whole new staff of people that you have to hire just to do this. What about bystanders have rights? So think about these scenarios. Let's say you're in the hospital. Maybe you have a broken arm or some other medical condition, rabies or something, and Officer Hartman's responding to a call, and he walks by you and he sees your medical records on the table and it gets caught on the camera, or you're just in the waiting room when he walks by and they see you with a knife sticking out of your head or something. So would you like that videoed? When you had nothing to do with the case, you're just there at the hospital trying to get better. Anybody, would you guys appreciate that? Well, that's what happens, and there's no way we can knock that out because it's just part of, it's always on. Same thing with your medical records. If it's sitting on the table, he's not noticing it, he's not reading it, but it could get picked up on the camera. Again, what about your house at night? Let's assume you're at night, and Officer Hartman's returning to a call, and you're kind of waking up and you're groggy, and again, you sleep in your pajamas. Would you like that to be videoed? That might make you feel uncomfortable knowing that maybe someone else is being able to watch that video of you waking up. And what about kids? So adults tend to be able to have the ability to decide if they want to be videotaped, make decisions. If he's doing an investigation, it's probably something that they're involved in, so they at least have some role. But what about he responds to a house and there's like toddlers on the floor playing, and while he's doing the investigation, he's catching them on video. Does anyone have any concerns about all these children being videotaped by the police that might be handed over to defendants or public records requests? What do you think about that? Might not like it. They might not like their kids being videotaped. A lot of people have objections to that, right?
Quite a few.
So now that we kind of have talked about whether the camera's going to be on all the time or off, let's talk about, we still want to do cameras. How much are we talking about these things cost? Because nothing's free in life. So there's 3 parts of a cost of the system. There's the cost of the camera, which we have to buy a bunch of cameras. There's that server space, because There's not enough room on the camera to store video all day, every day of all these calls. And then there's that staff that Officer Hartman talked about to organize, catalog, respond to requests. So I know you did some research. How much did you estimate it would cost to start the system here?
For our department, we currently have 53 sworn officers, so that would mean roughly that many, maybe a fewer amount than that, would have cameras. From what I understand, the cost of the cameras is negligible in that respect. They're not that much. The main part of the cost, the lion's share of that comes in with the amount of server and storage. So if you're going to do a hard serve, then it's, you have to have the space to do it, you have to have all the equipment to do it. That's quite a bit of money. Or you have to buy space in the cloud to store all that. Then along with that, you have to have personnel that's able to be the record keeper, the gatekeeper for all that. They have to be able to maintain it, they have to be able to vouch for its security, and also, if they're doing editing or whatever, is that one person, is that more than one person? The chief has initially said that for the first year's output to start up, it's going to be about $500,000. So 500 grand to get the ball rolling.
But here's the problem, it's not just that 500 grand, because I know there's some grants out there where a lot of folks are trying to get officers to wear cameras, so they might say, well, we'll buy you the cameras with a grant. But there are continuing costs too, every year, and you think you had an estimate on that too, didn't you?
They're talking, at least initially to get everything going and to start that cycle, you're looking at $100,000 per year. And that depends on the volume. So, if you have to buy more cameras, if you're doing a phased type implementation, you might have more cameras to buy, which does that require more server space? Does that require more personnel? Currently we don't have the personnel that can be dedicated to simply do video. So, hiring people would be something that would have to be considered, and it's quite a bit of money. So, it's one of those decisions the chief has to weigh quite a bit, because that's a very, very big chunk of change for a government entity to ask for.
Because if we spend an extra $1 million or $500,000 a year, who do you think is paying for that? Taxpayers are paying for it. Yeah, we can't just raise money without having our residents pay for it. So it's the taxpayers that are actually going to end up footing the bill for that if we do it. So here is a final question for you. Which one of these is true? One, cameras can see more than what people can see. Or two, cameras can see less than what people can see. So show of hands, who thinks cameras can see more than what people can see? And who thinks cameras can see less than what people can see? Okay, so the good news is it was a trick question, because you're all right. The answer is actually both of them. So for those of you who raise your hand about cameras seeing more than what people can see, can someone give us some reasons why? Who had their hand? Okay, yes.
Because it might catch what
Yeah, because it could catch something that maybe he wasn't looking at, because it's just always recording. It's not focusing. You had your hand up too.
It can depend on where they position it, so they might get a different angle of it to see better what might be going on.
Yeah, it might get a better view of what's going on, because this happens to be pointed at the thing that the officer's not looking at. Why else might the camera be able to see what people can't see? Is your hand up? Or you just rubbing your head? Okay. So yeah, the camera. If you've ever noticed when you take pictures, like with your phone, have you ever noticed that sometimes you can't really see something, but you take the picture and it actually comes out clear on the phone? Or maybe the opposite, you can kind of see something, but when you try to take that picture, it comes out kind of not good. Have you ever noticed that? So cameras take pictures at a different light spectrum than your eyes can see. So it's possible that it could be shadows and covered in shadows, and the camera can actually see through it, and the officer couldn't. Why would we care if we have video out there that the officer takes that can see more than he can see? Why might that be a problem? Okay, well, why would it be good?
Because it could just provide more evidence.
So it could provide more evidence. That's right. It could see something that he couldn't see. Why might that be a problem, though? Any ideas?
It could point out either a flaw in the police report or a major evidence factor that they missed in the criminal case.
So it could definitely catch something they did wrong. The real potential problem is it could make it look like the officer did something wrong that he didn't. And here's the example. If the officer's looking into the shadow and he sees someone acting suspicious and he sees them kind of pulling out something and he thinks he sees a gun and he's in fear of his life, what's he going to probably do? He's probably going to shoot that person to defend himself. And that would be a perfectly appropriate response, correct, Officer Hartman? But what if that camera, when you put it in slow motion or you zoomed in on it, what if you could see that his hand didn't have a gun, it had a cell phone? Well, now it's going to look like the officer shot a guy or girl just for having a cell phone in their hand. But he was acting based on what his eye could see, and you have to judge it based on what's in his head, but it looks like he might have done something inappropriate. So that's the risk with cameras, is that sometimes it looks like he should have seen something that he couldn't. Another example would be, what about something going on? Have you ever been like in a conversation with someone really close and something's going on in the background, you're just kind of tuned out because you're totally in the zone paying attention? That ever happened to you guys? So if when there's something stressful or dangerous, officers, and actually anybody, tends to hone in on that issue. So if I'm talking to you, I'm going to look right at you, and I might not be seeing what's going on 3 rows behind me. So that camera is going to have all this stuff going on in the background. He might not even have seen it. That can be good if it's good for evidence, but it could be bad if it's something he should have, you think he should have seen when he really realistically couldn't have seen it. Now let's go into cameras seeing less than what people can see. Someone who raised their hand there, why do you think that? Exactly, that's one perfectly good reason. So the camera can only see what's right in front of it. Has anyone played around with GoPros? You've seen those GoPro videos and stuff? So the GoPro's just looking right ahead, and they're always kind of shaky, but it's literally just seeing what's ahead. Whereas your person, my GoPro might be here, but I can turn my head and see over there and see over there. Officer Hartman, where are the cameras usually located, the top areas for these cameras?
Currently, they're coming in either on like an eyeglass mounted platform or on something similar to about the size of my microphone here, which would be either centerline mount or a pocket, but somewhere in there. They usually are in that general vicinity.
So if it's on your chest or your button here, you can turn your head and the camera's looking straight ahead, so it might not catch what you're seeing. So if he says, I saw someone with a gun, the video might not catch it. The other thing that you might notice from watching those GoPro videos is when you look at something, you have something called peripheral vision. You know, you're looking at me, but you can kind of see what's going on over here. The camera doesn't catch that, so you lose that level of detail. You had your hand up. What else could the camera not see that you could see?
Let's just say that you are officer and someone else. You're there, I'm done. And then the officer side and shot. And then they don't see the sky. They don't know what happens.
So if something, either you fall down and the camera's going to be pointing straight to the air, or maybe the camera gets knocked off. If Officer Hartman and I get in a fist fight or a scuffle, that camera can get knocked off. That brings up another funny story. I went to a training and they showed us a video, and it was a police involved shooting, and the whole video, all you could see was the camera kind of pointed up at an angle like this, and like kind of had to build his hat, and you couldn't figure out why you couldn't see anything. And it was because he had a chest cam, but he had a big pot belly. So when the cam was on his belly, it kind of tilted it up, and so it just got a really bad angle because he just couldn't, it didn't fit him very well. So you have to either adjust them or watch out. And they can't see the video while they're wearing it, so it could be all askew and they don't have any idea. So that's another good point. Any other ideas on what the camera might not see that you could see?
I have a question.
Yes?
Do they get in trouble? Like if the camera does, like, are there punishments for officers if the camera forgets to get turned on, or if the potbelly causes it to look up?
So Officer Hartman can probably jump in a little bit on that too, but everything in terms of disciplining police officers is run by standard operating procedures that say you're supposed to do this, you're supposed to do that. So it depends on what the policy says. So I can tell you that if we had body cams and the policy was the camera should be turned on every time you respond to a call and they failed to do that, they could be disciplined for that. I don't know if you would, if it was, I don't know how you would check it. If it's something you might say it has to be positioned properly 1 inch above your badge or something, then you could, but if it was just, it got knocked, they probably wouldn't. So everything has to be done with procedures, and if you don't follow procedures, you could be disciplined.
Yeah, in the police world, there's rules for every single thing that you do. You guys, you have it tough. I mean, I could sneeze wrong and get in trouble for it because it wasn't a procedure. So I mean, that's kind of the joke amongst, you know, this profession, but the thing is that there's rules and guidelines for everything that is done. So if we go to a camera policy, or I mean, if we get cameras, then automatically, without doubt, without question, a policy comes with it, okay? And that's basically, you know, your city attorneys, your city stakeholders, your police stakeholders, getting together and finding out what is best practice and what are the guidelines that we're going to use for implementation. And that's both for wearing it, for storing it, for releasing it, all those things. That would all cover or be covered under that one policy. So those things that would be you know, potentially damaging as far as positioning or braking, not turning on or off, those would be covered under that policy at that point. So basically they would have to decide, okay, we're going to do you turn it on at this point and this point. You can put it here or here on your shirt. You know, those things would be covered. And then they would, you know, basically, once that policy is made, if you're found through an investigation to have violated that policy, then you're subject to some sort of discipline, which depends on the supervisor.
So here's another example of why the camera might not catch everything. Officer Hartman, would you mind showing us like how you would, if you were trying to hold your taser or your gun at somebody, how does that work? Like, you don't go like this if you're, I mean, how do you properly handle your weapon when you're doing?
So if you're presenting a weapon for us, what the train is that you're going to use center lines. You come up and you're going to be right like this.
So look at where his hands are.
Where's that camera at? So it's either remember I said it's either a center line position or maybe an offset pocket position.
So this picture here is a screenshot of one like that, but he's got his proper position. The camera's kind of blocked by your hands. They have cameras that can go on your glasses.
Yeah.
I think someone's trying that. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Sunbury PD was working on that. They had some. It's been probably a year ago. I don't know what the status is on those. I know they were also going to some of the body cams for the shirt mount style as well. They were having trouble. They were kind of bulky, and it was kind of bugging some of the guys when they were wearing them on their glasses. But
and also the video tends to be kind of jerky. I've seen a couple of them because every time your head moves, it's like literally like that movie Hardcore Henry where the whole video is taped on GoPro. It's like it's all over the place. It's hard to really see what's going on because if you shake your head, the whole thing, it's just hard to, but there are some that are like that. And they're testing out the best. We're still in the early stages of body cams, so they're trying to figure out the best way to use them, the best place to put them, the best technology. So, but yeah, that is one option. Yeah, question? Well, I think that, I don't know why they don't put on the hat. You guys don't wear hats a lot of times, do you?
yeah, I've tried to wear a ball cap for years. Chief won't let me. So if we do, I would love to wear a ball cap. I mean,
I think one issue with both the glasses and the hat is if you ever have to go hands-on or you're getting a scuffle or it could get knocked off. Both your glasses or your hat could easily get knocked off. And those are the times that you probably really want to have the video to justify why you had to tackle somebody or whatever. And if it gets knocked off in a scuffle, that defeated the whole purpose. You're going to have that video like you described of the hat pointing up. Yes? So, that's an interesting question. What if they have a second party to the recording? So a lot of the times, these folks, it's not like TV where they're riding around with partners. Like on TV, every police show has two guys or their partners driving around. They're riding around solo most of the time, right, Officer Hartman?
yeah,
But there is a very interesting case I saw. There was a video we watched, and it looked like from the body cam that an officer shot a guy in the back who wasn't doing anything, and it looked like he did something really bad. And that's because the video showed it. Well, what happened was there was another video angle from the police car cruiser that pulled up on the side. And on that angle, you could see the guy with a gun up pointing at an officer, like he was going to shoot at him. So that angle showed it was a good shoot. But if you just look at the one angle, it would look like he just shot a guy in the back for nothing. So that's one of the weaknesses in cameras, that if you didn't have that cruiser cam, that would have sparked a national outrage, when in reality, there was luckily another view. So that is a good point. If you have the luxury of getting multiple angles, that could be good. Yes?
So like, once people get used to like cameras, will like the behavior start to like people when opposites first get cameras, I know how people will act different, but once that starts to wear off, when people start acting normal, so when they react different.
So are you saying, will the officers act normal or will the people being videoed? So I think some people, and unfortunately the way society, anytime something happens, there's always a video now from someone with their cell phone. But a lot of people don't like the idea of officers wearing body cams all the time because they're going to get videoed whether they want to or not. And you could just be a bystander and he's just walking around videoing you and people don't want some privacy. So I would say if we move to the world where everybody's being videotaped, people either get used to it and give up that bit of their freedom, or they'll all act, I think eventually people will kind of forget about it, or people will just always act differently when they see a police officer walking around because they know they have a camera. As for the officers, I think they will, we're always going to be looking at those videos for trials and for the discipline, so they'll probably continue to maintain their best behavior, because if they slip up and they start cursing or something, we'll have that.
Always a problem.
Yeah.
We tell guys a lot, you might hear, like in a police station or in the police world, you hear, treat everything as if you're being recorded. I mean, that's kind of a common, a common thing to tell people, to kind of keep that mentally reinforced, to say that, make sure that whenever you're interacting with this person, we know that, they're a jerk, and that they cause a problem, blah, blah, blah. But, you still need to act as if you're being recorded, which basically for us is to make sure that we know it's professional, we're taking care of what we have to, doing our jobs, whatever, and we're not going to play into the other side. Now,
Because in reality, even without the body cams, there's always someone with their phone out going, oh, I'm going to video you doing this, whatever.
It's amazing to see the evolution of cell phones and where they've come. Back in the day, it was hard to find a video. Today, something happens and there's people coming out of the woodwork with their cell phones out, videotaping everything you do. So, then it's just take your pick on which one you get to seize or whatever for evidence. But, so I mean, it's a different world. You guys have a very different knowledge base as far as how you're going to continue on. You guys are in the middle of this. We're kind of trying to catch up. So somebody's waiting for it.
You got a question?
The cameras are the way of
I think it depends on where they are.
Yeah, like I told the last group, I don't know of any that are like, ginormous that would, hinder your movements. For the most part, they're relatively small, and I believe that